Menopause affects every woman differently, from hot flashes, night sweats, sleep difficulties, to irritability. Now there's a new book, Shmersky, I guess I'm saying it right, The Pursuit of Hormone Happiness, focuses on self-empowerment and support in that time of change. The author, Ellen Dolgen, joins us to explain. Welcome. Good to have you with us.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, that is an interesting name, Shmersky.
Yes.
And shall we guess what that refers to?
Well, it is what I call my vajayjay, or anyone who has a vajayjay. So you have a Shmersky and you are a Shmersky.
Okay, so that's where you got the name. Did
It's
your
a
mother use that name, or you came up with that yourself?
Completely made up name by a mentor of mine who was 30 years my senior, and in honor and in memory of her, I decided to call the book Shmersky, The Pursuit of Hormone Happiness.
And what made you decide to write this book?
Well, frankly, I wasn't prepared. I was in my 40s, and I had no idea that perimenopause begins between the ages of 38 and 48, and that the average age of menopause is 51. And so I didn't know what was happening to me. All of a sudden, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think clearly. I had emotional highs and lows. I mean, it was as if I was experiencing PMS times 1,000. And frankly...
Did you talk to friends and say, hey, are you going through this too?
Well, frankly, at first I thought I was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. I was not even thinking about menopause because I associated menopause with something that happens much later in life, more like in my 60s. So I was a little embarrassed. And this is why I'm so passionate about this topic. And that is why I decided to make an easy to understand kind of toolkit so women will know that perimenopause happens when you're young, and there are over 33 symptoms of menopause, and they will be familiar with that and understand how to get help.
Okay, you refer to this whole thing as PM&M, which is?
Perimenopause and menopause. And the reason I shortened it is because that's kind of a mouthful, and it also, PM&M reminds me of something delicious. So.
Yeah, and perimenopause is what you say, starts much earlier than a lot of women.
Definitely.
And it includes some of those symptoms that you just described. Tell us what are some of the biggest myths about perimenopause and menopause.
Well, the biggest myth is that it happens when you're old, as what we think is old, and to me, you know, old today is, I don't even think about age, but right. Would be like 65, 70, 75 would be an older woman. But frankly, you know, no one's calling Jennifer Aniston old, and she's in her 40s.
Yeah.
So it happens when you're young. That's the biggest myth. The other one is that, you know, it's only hot flashes are the symptoms. No, there's over 33 symptoms, and I put them together in a symptoms chart to help women chart their symptoms so they can get the help they need from a perimenopause and menopause expert.
Well, let's talk about some of the symptoms that really do happen, and maybe some of them are myths. What about the loss of sexual interest?
Yes, that's not a myth. When your estrogen drops, your Shmersky can take a trip to the Sahara Desert, and I'm not talking about Las Vegas. And it can get dry, and sex can hurt. And so a woman can find that they'd rather mop the floor than go to bed. And this is how relationships break down. And it is only happening not because you don't have the desire, but because of low estrogen. So
what about night sweats?
Night sweats is a very, very difficult problem, and it causes many Shmerskys not to sleep.
What about forgetfulness?
Forgetfulness is a very big symptom. And in fact, a lot of women also find themselves having a lot of anxiety, depression, inability to feel good about themselves.
So what's the good news then? Is there anything that
well,
is
the good news,
something that
the good news is that there are answers.
Good?
Yeah.
Oh, there are answers.
Yes,
okay, well,
and that is why I'm passionate about talking about it. And I put them together to make it simple and easy. In Shmersky, The Pursuit of Hormone Happiness is not only for women, but it's for men too, because they need to understand what the women in their lives are going through so they can get the love and support they need.
And a lot of those symptoms can be treated.
Absolutely. Anywhere from acupuncture all the way to hormone therapy.
Okay, Shmersky is the name of the book. Ellen, thank you so much for coming to visit us.
Well,
today
I really appreciate it, and I hope that your listeners will remember that reaching out is in and suffering in silence is out. You can find hormone happiness.
Well, that's great to hear. All right, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.